Peter Northcote standing over here. Look at his short hair. Has anyone seen him with his long hair? He's got it cut this week or something. He looks very, very handsome.
I'm just trying to look like you, Steve.
Give up, mate. You'll never do it. Peter, for those who don't know, is one of the greats of Australian guitar. If you haven't heard him, you probably have. He's played on every ad. He's a go-to man for the advertising industry. He plays on the Good Morning Show on TV. He is absolutely sensational. What he's going to do tonight is quite intriguing. He's not just going to play for us because he's solo. He's going to do a sort of show and tell, and he's been preparing it at length. So I'll be very interested to see what he comes up with. But let's hear it for the fantastic Peter Northcote.
Good evening. I love this at... My name is Retapitokron, and that's my name backwards. And that's what happens when you have dyslexia. It's really interesting. As I was writing this down and you know, wondering what I'm going to do about the talk, I wrote Dilsexia. So that's what happens, but it's really good for music because your brain is making calculations all the time. If you don't know your name backwards, figure it out and I'll ask you later. I'm going to play a song and then I'm going to talk a lot tonight, so be prepared to just, you know, get bored. I'm going to start with a little song off my fourth solo album called Poindexter and the Genius Sex Act. And this song is called Guilt-Free Guitar. shucks, thanks. So, Steve asked me to come and do some playing and some talking about what I do as a musician, and he thinks it's probably going to be very interesting to know, for you to understand what a musician does during the day. So I'm going to try and dispel the myth that we're all on smoking dope and lying around and watching repeats of Seinfeld. So when he said to me, he said, would you like to come and talk about what you do and who you are? And I said, sure. And I said, let's see what I can come up with. And he said, you've got to remember this is an all-ages audience and we've got to keep it family-friendly, so you've got to watch your P's and Q's. And I said, mate, I'm probably going to be more likely to watch my F's and C's in this. I wanted to make this about you and make it entertaining at the same time, so I wanted you to relate to what we do as musicians, or what I do as a musician, so you understand that we're not that special. Tell me, are there any musicians in the audience? Great. So, guitar players, hands up. Right, drummers. Okay, good. Are you? I want to know the people that own a guitar that never play it. Hands up. Right, great. We're going to talk about you a little bit later. What I do is nothing special. It's, don't get me wrong, I have great appreciation for what I do. It's an amazing job that I've had, and it's an amazing life that I have. And I look at some of the nurses and the doctors and the people that make lunches, and I think that's just as amazing. There you go. Gratitude and appreciation. What happens with me is, the only difference is with me is that every 4 or 5 minutes I get people going, yeah, that was great. And I think it's really important that, I'm not going to be a philosophizer on this talk, but I think it's really important that everybody gives gratitude and appreciation to the people they work with. And it's something that I like to, when I do my clinics in the universities, I like to give people that information so they go and, pat the person behind the back on the great email that they just sent out. So I've just been lucky. All I've done is played guitar, and it's taken me to the wildest places, and it's been my dream job, and I've just been lucky. The power of music is incredible, and I'll talk a bit more about that because of some of the work that I do. See, I don't think I'm ever going to get Alzheimer's. It's really interesting because the calculations going on in my brain by what I'm doing are minuscule but pungent. Like every note that I played just then, I know what the relationship to the chord is. I know when I'm improvising what degree of the scale I'm in. So it's a complex calculation, and that's why I think it's really good for people to play music. Look, the thing is, I wanted to talk to you about, this leads me to completely believe that I have a purpose in what I'm doing. I think it's incredible that I've found it by luck, but I want you to ponder, what is your purpose? What are you on the planet to do, and what are you here to be? I'm just lucky that I found mine. Look, I play guitar, but that's not all I do. It's amazing what avenues have opened up for me by just starting to play guitar. So what was it that got me to where I am? And we'll talk about who I am and what I've done in a while, but what was it? Was it luck? Was it destiny? Was it desire? Was it laziness? I think it's a lot of laziness, because I just didn't want to get a job. Was it some grand plan that I made before I chose to come into physical form to be a functioning fraction of the oh-so-integral part of the universe? Or was it that the amoeba got together on this day and some guitar DNA slipped in and all of a sudden, bang? So, I don't know. I have a bit of a strong idea about that, but I don't know. And it doesn't matter. So, a bit about me. I was born in 1960 to non-musical parents, and the only music that we had was 2UE, Gary O'Callaghan in the morning with Sammy Sparrow. Anybody remember that? Right. I know the age group. You look too young to understand this. You got it. Every morning. And then, on the weekends we'd have 2CH blaring. My dad had a record player in his den, which was basically my old bedroom, and he used to lie under it on Saturday afternoons after he'd done the lawn. And he'd have the 5-stacker, have one LP, and he'd fall asleep and you'd hear those same 5 records every weekend. And it was great because they were great albums, but that was the extent of my musical information. You know, I see musicians that have started off with musical parents, and I envy them. Anyway, 9 years old, I was playing tennis. My brother and I were playing tennis, and I apparently screamed out for a guitar. Mum bought us a $20 guitar each, and we took lessons from a guy up the road. 6 months of lessons. Mum said, "We can't afford both. You choose guitar or tennis." I chose guitar, and Tony chose tennis, and no, he's not a famous tennis player. And it was really amazing because Mum saw potential in me, and she really, really, supported me and was always, "Great, darling, keep practicing." And it's really interesting. I've got two voices in my head, and I've got this voice of me, "Yes, I can do this, and I'm going to work hard, and everything's going to be great." And then I've got my old man in my other ear going, "Turn that bloody noise down." And it's constant with me. It's a little while later, Mum could see that was what I wanted to do, and she managed to find me a music studio over in Rockdale. Now, ironically, I learned how to play rock music in Rockdale from an amazing teacher named Vince Lombardo. Does anybody know Vince? He's an amazing guitar player, and he's my mentor and has been. At 15 years old, I toured through that school, Jamie Redfern. Does anybody remember Jamie Redfern? God, you guys are old. So then a little bit later, like 16 years old, I left home. It was hell. I just had to get out, and I lived in a house in Enmore with 8 other guys and musicians and artists and drug dealers. And we all had the same job. We used to go to this office block in Sussex Street, and we'd go downstairs to this little room, and we would pick up a folder with about 10 paintings on masonite. And 5 of us would get into a car and go out to the suburbs and knock on people's doors saying, "I'm a travelling artist and these are my paintings." Well, after a while, we realised that some of the girls were making a lot more money than us, and they were pretending to be deaf and dumb. So yes, karma's got me back, because I did try that, and it was quite lucrative. But I had to get out of home. My parents' rules and discipline just seemed arbitrary, and it was a crazy in the end. My dad was drinking. My childhood was great, don't get me wrong. It was fantastic. Dad started drinking, and it just became a mess. And it wasn't like I hated my parents, but I realised if I was going to survive in this world, I had to get out of this environment. And it's interesting, there's that saying of, if you want to bask in the sunlight of life, you must first leave the shade of the family tree. And that's what I did. 16, I was out. So I started doing gigs in old people's homes, shopping centres, weddings, cruise ships, not really knowing why I was doing it. Just, it was a gig, and it was money coming in. And not much, but it was enough to support my souvlaki and marijuana habit. In those days, of course, there was no internet, and we used to have Guitar Player magazine, and that was about all we had. And I started to read that really good players used to practice 6 to 8 hours a day. So that's something that I took on early and did many 8-hour days of practice, 6 hours. In my 20s, I started playing in local bands and teaching. Mid-20s, everything changed. And that's when I started working with touring bands. Now, in the mid-20s, I got an audition with a bloke called Richard Clapton, and that's where I got my cocaine habit. It's true, but I don't do drugs, and I haven't done drugs for decades. As a matter of fact, I'm not even drinking at the moment, although I might have one later. It's been 2 weeks since I've had a drink, so it's not like I'm addicted or anything. The only thing I'm addicted to at the moment is brake fluid, and I drink tons of it. But it's okay, because I know I can stop any time I like. So from there, I started touring with Dragon. For 6.5 years, I toured with Dragon, and that was an amazing experience. I took over from Tommy Emmanuel, and he's been a great mentor for me for many years. Bo Diddley, Tom Jones, Monkeys, Shania Twain, Darryl Braithwaite, Doc Neeson, Grace Knight, Guy Sebastian. I've played on every High Five album, and I'm proud of that. Human Nature, Jenny Morris, Jimmy Barnes, Julie Anthony, Marsha Hines, Margaret Olich, Mark Hunter, Neil Murray, Paul Kelly, Shannon Knoll, Rick Price, Sharon O'Neill, Simon Phillips, Yothu Yindi, to name a few. And we would tour with people like Elton John, Cher, Billy Joel, Rod Stewart. And then I ended up, I have toured with Joe Satriani, which was an amazing experience, seeing that guy play on stage next to me. Well, not next to me, but after me. I toured Japan with my band, and so I have, like I say, I've got 4 solo albums to my credit. They're a waste of time. If anybody's considering making an album, just don't do it. It's a waste of money. It really is. It's just like, unless you've got great management and you've got lots of money behind you, it's really hard to make any money back. So I just did a lot of what they call library production music, which is stuff that you hear in the background of, say, Dr. Phil and Oprah, and you'll hear my stuff on Oprah and Dr. Phil a lot. So in 1985, I started doing recording sessions, and I became like the A-grade first call guitarist. And in those days, it was all a band in a room recording, and it was fantastic. We record to metal tape spinning around, and none of this computer stuff, it was great, but I've seen it all change. So back in those days, the session players used to say to me, you'll get about 2 to 4 good years out of being a session player. And I thought, no, that's not enough. I thought, I want to make this my job and my life, and I want to be professional about it. So what I ended up doing was putting all my money back into my business, buying new gear. And I had a full-time roadie who would take my gear to one studio. I'd go there and play on that while he'd set up at another studio. And then he'd come back and pick that one up. It was all day. I was doing sessions all day, and it was a fantastic time. In 1995, my house got robbed 3 times. And I had no insurance, so I lost everything 3 times. And I moved into the city and continued doing sessions, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it changed my whole life. And it was, I won't go too much into that, but like as I say, that was like 30 years up until about 2005, where my mum became a paraplegic, and that was really tough for her, and I had to be around all the time. So life changed then. But you'll hear me on every McDonald's, KFC, NAB, Westpac, Coca-Cola, Toyota, Oh What a Feeling, Mazda, Nissan, Telstra commercial you've ever heard. Today, I still have my company, Peter Northcote Guitar, and Plots Records, which doesn't function much because nobody makes records. But it's there, just in case. I play with lots and lots of bands. I produce and put on lots of events for myself and others. I have the ability to I just know how to do things like that. It's just natural. I look, all the events that I've gone to, and I see, that's wrong, I wouldn't do that. So I do stuff that works quite well. I am on the board of the ACMF, which is Australian Children's Music Foundation. And that's Don Spencer's. Now, you'd know Don Spencer if you know what yeah, you know Don? Play School, that's right. So Don Spencer is the CEO and the owner of ACMF, and we look after, it's Australian Children's Music Foundation, and we look after underprivileged kids, Indigenous kids. We're the only people that are allowed into the detention centres to teach and give underprivileged kids the joy of music, and it's a beautiful thing to do. I still got a recording studio at home. I had a big studio for 13 years. But I closed that up because it's just not worth me doing. I can do everything on a computer at home. I have 87 guitars. And it's not enough, let me tell you. So wives, if your husband's looking at buying a second one, let him do it. So I still thank you, no problems. Come and see me now, $50. I still play a lot at home. It's like still my joy. And look, last night I did a gig and I got home and I played for another 2 hours. It's just my passion. It still is. And I feel like as I get older, I'm becoming more passionate. But I still get asked these questions. What's your day job? What do you do all day? I had somebody the other night come up to me and say, she was introduced by somebody, she said, so you live a nocturnal life, do you? What are you going to do in 5 years? 5 years when you get a wife and kids, what are you going to do then? Play your guitar? That's why I used to get this asked all the time, and I still do. It's, believe it or not, these meaningful human interactions, they still haunt me, but they keep me reevaluating what I do. And as I say, I'm 59 years old, and I still get these questions. It's great. I love it that people still think that musos sit around and do nothing until they do the gig that night. Some do. But I don't get any government help. I've created my own company, so I look after myself. And I think this all stemmed from a girlfriend when I was very, very young. And I met this girl and I thought, you're the most beautiful person in the universe. I would marry you and have kids. And she thought I would be a bum musician. And she split up from me. And she married an electrician a year later. And that was great motivation for me to kind of go, well, I'm not going to be a bum musician. I'm going to do things right. So I really thank Linda for that. She was absolutely amazing. Again, let's go back to my purpose. These questions always remind me of my purpose, why I'm here on the planet. You have to have a purpose. Well, you don't have to have a purpose, but you're not going to have much joy in your life. If you have a purpose, you know, look, there's shit. Oh, I should have put S with the P's in the Q. There's crap as well, but you know, like most of the things I do are just awe-inspiring, and all I do is play guitar. It's been incredible. The ACMF, teaching at Layla Park, my residency gigs. I put on events. What's really interesting is the gigs that I do, all the fans that come along, it's like my social event. So it's like I know most of the people that come to my shows, and it's beautiful, and we have a beautiful relationship. I've just done a lecture to Chinese television in Beijing, which was amazing, teaching music to film with a translator, and he was fantastic, except he was very Chinese. I have a couple of tracks that get used for the wrestlers as they walk on, play-ons and play-offs. And I said, so it was like I'd say the words and he'd repeat it in Chinese. And I said, so I have a number of tracks that have been used for some famous wrestlers for play-ons and play-offs. And I got off stage after I'd done the talk, and somebody said, you have music played for famous restaurants? So that's what happens. I do lectures at university. I also work with Animals Asia, and we look after the moon bears in China and Vietnam that have been stuck in cages, you know, for this long. And I do a lot of jamming. Like, you know, I work my day around a 3:30 nap, and I jam to Millionaire Hot Seat. I'm going to move through this really quickly because I know we've got some time constraints. Purpose, what is it? Let me get back to it. Do you have one? Can you put it into a sentence? See, I did this in my early 20s when my father passed, and it was a re-evaluation of everything. You know, what's it all about? Why do people get sick? Where do they go? Do they come back? Is there such a thing as, you know, reincarnation? Does it matter? And you know what I got to? It doesn't matter, and all that matters is right here, right now. And, you know, having a mother that became a paraplegic, you know what, when people get sick, you really re-evaluate your life. But, see, having my purpose, and I've stuck to it in everything that I do, and it's really, really handy. Here it is, to inspire and be inspired with and from what I'm loving to do. Well, let me rephrase that. To inspire and be inspired with and from doing what I love to do. So that being music, which of course just stemmed from playing guitar. It's been incredible. So, you know, I know that things can change, and if my hands chop off, I can still retain this purpose. And it's a beautiful thing. Like, it's inevitable, everything will change. There's only one thing that never changes, and that's the sentence, everything changes. So, you know, but I can still retain that joy no matter what I do. You know, it always worries me when I ask people, what do you want from life? And they say, I just want to be happy. And I think it's just never going to happen. You're not just going to be happy. You've got to learn to accept it all. So, my day. Well, I've still got plenty to do. Damn it. All right, I'm not going to talk about my day. What I'm going to do is... I know, you want to hear, don't you? No, look... what I'm going to do is I'm going to play something. I could keep going. I do this, I do clinics, as I say, at universities, and they're great fun, but I have this machine here called an Axifex, and it's a digital amplifier, and this is what I've been sponsored by these people for a while, and it's fantastic. Let me give you some demos. Yeah, it's sounding great, isn't it? So, you get that one? Pink Floyd. you know, it's, I could keep going, but we have to keep it short. You get the idea. This one's right. Oh, how's it going so far? Great. That one, and then I got to get to that. So there you go. That's some of the stuff that I can get out of this thing. I want to kind of close up. I know I don't want to, but I have to. I want to say, you know, the purpose thing. I encourage you to have a purpose, no matter what it is you do. It is really, really something that you should be able to put into one sentence. My philosophy is simple. I'm not a hippie. I'm not religious, but the things that I teach in my classes are the basic principles of what you focus on expands. So be very careful of what you focus on, because it's going to happen. If your life's crap and you want to say it's crap all the time, that's what you'll get. Do what you love. And if you don't know what that is, love what you're doing until what you love to do comes to you. People say you need to work smart or you work hard. I disagree. I really think that all you've got to do is do good work and be proud of what you've done when you walk away. And that's what I've learned from doing my sessions all my life. You know, let's go back just quickly, because I'm going to play a real 2-minute song, but I wanted to talk about the musicians. People that started playing when they're young and life got in the way. And it's very, very common. And so the guitars get put in the cases and they get put under the bed. My thing that I say to you when I say this to everybody that has that condition is to get your guitars out. Leave them in the lounge room. Now, I've had all the excuses in the world. Oh, yeah, the wife doesn't like it in the... Girls, snap out of it.
Girls play too.
There you go. Girls, see them as furniture. They're beautiful pieces of furniture. And see him as a girlfriend, and that he's at home with her and not out cheating on you. And then I get the excuse also of, the kids are going to hit it and break it. It's like, it's a piece of wood. But it's $3,000. It's only worth $3,000 if it's being used. It's worth nothing if it's sitting in the case. So I urge you, even if you walk, you say, oh, I haven't played it for years. It doesn't matter. Get it out, and even if you walk past it and you go like that, you're going to connect with it. I think it's really, really important, because what was in you when you first did it is still there. And it doesn't mean that you have to be the best or you have to be a genius or a virtuoso. It's the connection of music that will give you amounts of joy that you've untold. And you need to honour that. I think that's really important, that you honour what you've been given.
So let's hear some.
What's that? Okay. So I want to play this song and these two songs, and they're really short, but these are the tunes that I grew up with my dad's 5C record player stack. So Rodgers and Hammerstein, and I worked out some arrangements. I wish I could keep speaking to you. But with that, I bid you thing good, Doug. And that's good night backwards. Thank you so much. It's been a joy to speak to you. Really, you've got some amazing artists. I've heard the sound checks are incredible. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
Peter Northcote. Fantastic.